Welcome to the Relationship and Wellness Podcast with Nicola. Nicola runs transformational breakthrough programs for individuals and couples and has several award-winning audio programs. She also runs a holistic life therapist certification program where you can get paid to guide clients to profound change and work from the comfort of your own home. For details, visit www.nicolabeer.com today. Please note, places are limited and are available on first-come, first-served basis.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola Beer and this episode is about attachment styles. In romantic relationships, we respond and behave in different ways according to our attachment styles. Our attachment styles, however, are often unconscious. For example, you might notice someone very clinging to their partner, infatuated by them, wanting to be together all the time, can't keep their hands off them. Whereas others may be more aloof and feel uncomfortable with too much attention and affection. Some attachment styles are very expressive, showing a lot of love and a lot of emotion. Others can be like that at the start and then start to create distance when things get too close for comfort. A person's attachment style is formed in their early childhood and becomes a schema for future attachments or relationships in adulthood. So if a person had an emotionally unavailable or unloving primary caregiver, which impacted their ability to bond with that primary caregiver, it will impact the child's ability to establish secure romantic relationships in adulthood. This can be explained in more detail by the attachment theory. John Bowlby first introduced the concept of the attachment theory in the 1950s, which summarizes how our attachment style as an adult is a mirror reflection of the relationship we had with our primary caregiver. Bowlby put forward 3 key facts about the attachment theory. Children who were raised by dependable caregivers, who were always there, nurturing and loving them, are less likely to experience fear compared to those who didn't have the same confidence in their caregivers being there for them. 2, experiences in early years are so ingrained in our brains that they form the foundation of our future relationships. And these foundations stay the same forever unless a person actively makes changes in their adulthood to address their attachment style. 3, the reason why children form these foundations for future relationships based on their bonds with their caregivers is because they are the first bonds that they establish with the world around them. Understandably, we assume that how responsive our caregivers were to our needs as babies is how others will be responsive to our needs too. That's why some people are very confident in their relationships, that they're going to be looked after, that they can trust them, that they're going to get their needs met, and why others are scared and concerned. Mary Ainsworth took the attachment theory further when she conducted a clinical experiment on infants which she named the strange situation. This experiment involved 12-month-old infants and their parents in a room together with a stranger. The parents were then systematically removed from the room, leaving the infant in the room with the stranger, and then the parent was brought back into the room. Ainsworth and their colleagues looked at how the infants responded to their parents leaving and how they interacted with the stranger when the parent wasn't there, and lastly, how the infants reacted when their parents returned. Results showed that around 70% of the infants were visibly upset when their parent left the room and avoided the stranger when their mother or father were not in the room. When their parent returned, they were actively looking for them and were easily comforted by them and were friendly with the stranger. This showed that they were securely attached to their parent and trusted that their parent would protect them when they were around, so they could interact with the stranger if their parent was around. Around 15% of the infants became very distressed when their parents first left and when their parents returned as well. They had a very difficult time being comforted. They were showing signs that they wanted to be comforted, like crying. However, they also resisted their parents' comfort as if they were punishing them. This showed that they were anxious and resistant in their attachment. The remaining 15% of infants didn't show many signs of distress when their parent left, and then when their parent returned, they were actively avoiding contact with the parent and focused on playing with the toys rather than reacting to their parent returning. This showed that they were dismissive and avoidant in their attachment. There were also a small number of infants who exhibited a mixed reaction, where they were a blend of anxious and resistant, but may have also shown traits of being dismissive and avoidant too. Infants in this category were often confused and dazed throughout the experiment, and their reactions were confusing. Taking Bowlby's attachment theory and Ainsworth's strange situation, it was concluded that there are 4 attachment style categories: secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized. So in this episode today, I'm going to explain each attachment style, including examples of what these type of attachment styles look like in romantic relationships, and end with tips on how to build a positive relationship with someone who does not have a secure attachment style. So I'll start with the secure attachment style, as this is the healthiest form of attachment. People who had a reliable, loving and nurturing primary caregiver are those that are more confident in their romantic relationships as adults. They don't fear rejection, are comfortable with intimacy, and are more trusting of others. As you can see from the strange situation experiment, the children who were securely attached to their parents had so much trust in them that only when their parent was around they felt safe, and even though the stranger was there at all times, they were only friendly with the stranger when the parent was visible in the room. This level of confidence and trust also means being comfortable to ask for help and emotional support when needed in romantic relationships, like the infants did when they sought comfort and reassurance from their parents when they returned. People who have a secure attachment style can also be there for their loved ones when they need love and support. According to psychologists Cindy Hazen and Philip Shaver, around 56% of adults have a secure attachment style, which is great. However, that means 44% of adults fall into the insecure attachment style, which includes anxious, avoidant, and disorganized attachment styles. The common relationship traits with those with a secure attachment style includes they can express their emotions appropriately, can set healthy boundaries when needed, are happy when alone and when with their partner, have a healthy approach to intimacy, are more capable of discussing problems in relationships in a constructive way, accept and learn from mistakes, and can move on from difficulty easily. Hazen and Shaver found 19% of adults have anxious attachment style, which is driven by a huge fear of abandonment. Infants in Ainsworth's The Strange Situation experiment, who fit into the anxious attachment style, were those that were distressed when their parents left and then craved comfort, but were almost punishing their parents by resisting their efforts to gain a connection with them. They resisted their efforts to comfort them because they were filled with anxiety and feelings of being abandoned again. Much like the infants who were anxious when their parents left and distressed when they returned, people with anxious attachment style are very insecure, clingy, and need a lot of validation to feel comforted. They read too much into things, more often than not, like their partner taking too long to respond to a message or not answering the phone, and then punish them when they do respond because they're holding on to resentment of what they felt before. The most common relationship traits in those with anxious attachment style includes experience more stresses in the relationships that both are real and made up, which lead to jealousy, anger, mood swings, and being oversensitive and obsessive. They feel more nervous and more insecure about relationships, especially romantic relationships. They need constant words of praise, approval, and validation to know that they are accepted, and if they do not receive the validation, they react negatively and obsess over it. It's the kind of person that's asking, do I look okay? Am I looking okay? Again and again. The kind of person who has to start a relationship very quickly, get their partner to fall in love with them and attach to them quickly because they're anxious. They often expect the worst in people before thinking of all the possible options, often misinterpret the words and behaviours of others due to constant negative thinking, are more focused on drama and feel more comfortable in troubled relationships, struggle to be alone, and so may flip from bad relationship to another bad relationship. They may have no gaps in their relationships. So that's the anxious attachment style. The avoidant attachment style I'm going to talk about now. According to Hassan and Schaffer, 25% of adults in romantic relationships have an avoidant attachment style. This is heavily linked to the fear of closeness or intimacy. They have trouble being close to others and lack trust in relationships. They maintain distance between themselves and others, which is exactly like the infants in the strange situation, who were classed as having an avoidant attachment style. These infants weren't phased by their parent leaving and actively avoided them when they returned. People with an avoidant attachment style prefer to be alone in many situations. Even sometimes when others are around, they can just tune out. The most common relationship traits in those with an avoidant attachment style includes avoid being genuinely intimate with others, where they may be vulnerable. They preach about being free and not being tied down to anyone or anything. They prioritize work, personal goals, their own passion projects and traveling, etc., above romantic relationships. They often have commitment issues and can move from relationship to relationship easily. If they are in a relationship, they prefer to behave in a way that prioritizes their independence over their partner. Very few genuine friendships or close friendships can be typical of an avoidant attachment style, and they can possess narcissistic traits or be very passive-aggressive. So passive-aggressive is kind of like the silent treatment, little jibes, sulking, moodiness, that kind of thing. I must admit I used to be an avoidant attachment style in my relationship, and I've worked very hard on recognizing my triggers, the signs, and adapting my behavior to not let it sabotage my relationship. Lastly, we have the disorganized attachment style, which can also be called fearful avoidant attachment style and anxious avoidant, as it's a mix of both the anxious and avoidant attachment styles. Those with a disorganized attachment style are very conflicted. They want to be loved and crave attention. However, they also avoid it as much as they can. They want to be in a loving relationship. However, they take actions that show how reluctant they are to get close to someone, as well as how attached they are to someone as well. Disorganized attachment style has been heavily linked to increased sexual acting out behaviors and violence even in romantic relationships, which can be because of the inner conflict within the individual. The most common relationship traits in those with a disorganized attachment style includes a lot of inner conflict, having deep desires whilst also fighting the urge for intimacy, lack of confidence and trust in others and expecting them to be unreliable, experience difficult life experiences like being abandoned by family and friends, losing loved ones and dealing with the grief or abuse, always suspicious of others and stuck in a negative cycle of thoughts, struggle to make deep, meaningful connections with friends and in romantic relationships, expecting the worst when in relationships, so they're not fully letting go when with a loved one, and they may struggle to fully let go in sex and be seen. One lady that came to me for help was because she was ruining her relationship and she was worried that her partner might end things. She was in so much conflict. She felt she loved him and wanted to be so close to him and build a future with him, but then fearful, negative thoughts would come up, and then she would cancel seeing him the next day. Whenever they had activities planned for a few days in a row, always one she would bail out of and not give a reason. Her messaging to him was so sporadic. Sometimes she would reply straight away and chat all day, and other times she would not reply at all. He loved her so much, but he was getting tired of it, the lack of consistency. He began to wonder, do I really know who she is? He didn't know where he stood. And then he started to wonder, is she cheating on him? Is she seeing someone else? And he also found himself tempted to play games back, to not respond and leave her be, to teach her a lesson. During the breakthrough program, we worked on clearing her negative thoughts about relationships, her fears of being hurt, abandoned and cheated on. She also didn't see herself as attractive enough, interesting enough, which was also affecting her confidence in many areas of her life, not just her relationship. So that had to be cleared. Lastly, she had a huge fear of a man interfering with her work success and finances. She had worked so hard to gain her financial independence after her marriage broke down, and she was so scared entering a new relationship, giving time to someone else, as she felt it might take her away from her business and her children. After doing my breakthrough program, she felt at peace. She knew that she could have a loving, close relationship, her business, and maintain a close connection with her children. Before, she had struggled to see this, and she realized that her man had done nothing to show her that she couldn't trust him. He could be trusted. In fact, he had been so patient and kind. She just had to take the leap of faith and trust and believe that she can have a wonderful, loving, supportive relationship. If you are the partner with a loved one who shows signs of one of these 3 insecure attachment types, you may wonder how you can be there for them and make them feel better. So I'm going to share my top tips for each insecure attachment style. To support a person who shows signs that they have an anxious attachment style, you may find it hard to maintain a positive relationship with them because they need a lot of validation and attention, and they can accuse their partner of being unloving, unkind, not thoughtful enough, because they constantly misinterpret their partner's behaviours or words. Samantha and Ben had been together for 1.5 years and shared that they had a solid relationship full of love and loyalty. Samantha knew that Ben loved her. However, she would find herself overthinking a lot of small things that would build up and cause small conflicts. For example, Samantha felt like she was constantly messaging Ben first during the day and initiating the conversations, but she felt she needed to feel involved in all parts of Ben's life. But she also was worried about this. Why was it her that was starting it? Ben felt like he was showing a lot of love when he was physically with her, but as he had so much responsibilities at work, he would just reply when he could. And he had some days where his meetings were back to back and he wasn't able to text or call. And he even explained to her beforehand that I'm going for a really busy time at work. Yet Samantha couldn't help but think that he was going off her, he was interested in someone else, or that she had done something wrong. I worked with Ben and Samantha to identify the top 3 things they loved about each other, the best 3 things they love in their relationship from my 27 relationship needs list, and then the 3 behaviours or reactions and responses that they would love each other to work on. This helped them to both understand what one another needed to feel loved, because we all feel loved in different ways, and what actions make them both feel fully happy and comfortable in their relationship. It's also very important for a partner who is supporting someone with an anxious attachment style to follow through on promises, because otherwise saying you're going to do something and doing something else will create more anxiety. When a person has an anxious attachment style, they are already seeking extra validation. They're looking for signs that they can't trust you, so you need to make sure that you can be trusted. White lies are not good for a person with an anxious attachment style. Being let down just reinforces their anxious thoughts. Make sure to set clear boundaries too. For example, if your partner tends to create an issue out of nothing, and this causes arguments that can escalate, It may be helpful to say that I'm going to walk away to avoid this turning into an argument. Please can we talk about this tomorrow when we're both calmer? Or, I love you. I want us to work through this without upsetting one another. In fact, a study was carried out in 2009 and highlighted that seeing gratitude and care from a loved one reduces attachment anxiety. So it might be tempted to be angry or annoyed or irritated when they're anxious. This is going to make things worse. So be loving and firm. John and Rachel booked individual breakthrough sessions with me because they were fighting a lot more than they used to. And they both had totally different ways of dealing with situations, which caused even more conflict and misunderstanding. Rachel was very closed off from her emotions and tended to make decisions by herself without consulting John, which left him feeling like his opinion wasn't important and that Rachel was almost disregarding him as an equal partner. Rachel would react aggressively if John shared his feelings, and this would push his buttons and force him to react to her, leading to shouting at one another. Through the individual breakthrough sessions, it was clear that Rachel's past experiences of an abusive relationship led her to close off from emotions. And even though she chose to be in a relationship with John, she was so scared to fall into the trap of relying on a partner that she became hyper-independent and didn't feel she needed to consider John's feelings on her life. She wanted love but didn't know how to love in a healthy way. I helped her clear the trauma from past relationships and release the negativity so that she was always able to welcome love and appreciate John's effort to be the partner she has always wanted. If you're like John, the supporting partner, it can feel so disheartening to be treated as a flatmate sometimes. You also may find that their passive-aggressive behaviour, isolating themselves, stopping communication, hurtful. It may be especially hard when they don't want to listen to your feelings and get tired of how you want to keep talking about your emotions. Intimate communication can feel very uncomfortable to them. To you, it may seem normal and natural. However, there are things you need to do to remember when you're in a relationship with a person who has an avoidant attachment style. Don't overwhelm them with emotions. Don't chase them. If they need downtime or space, give it to them, because chasing an avoidant partner can push them away further. This may sound counterproductive, but when a person is forced to show love or emotions, they are more likely to turn away. But if they see there is space and room to respond when they want to, if they feel that their space is respected, often they can start to trust and open up more. If your partner opens up a little or does something that shows their vulnerability, praise them, encourage them, show them how much you appreciate them letting you in, and tell them that you're there for them. You're ready to listen, which will help them to open up more. Show them love and kindness, which will help them to soften up and trust. It's very important as a supporting partner to an avoidant person that you fill your time with your own hobbies, passions and friendship circles or work. Partners are there to complement your life, but not there to fill every minute of your life. And if you're too needy, they're going to push you away. Happiness, as you probably know, is from the inside, and so do whatever you need to do to make yourself happy as well. Your partner may just be drawn closer to you if you do this, if you're living a happy life, a great life, thriving in everything you do. In fact, this is true for all the attachment styles. It's so much more attractive when you're fulfilled with many different areas of your life. Now I'm going to talk about disorganized attachment style. If your partner shows traits of disorganized attachment type, it can leave you feeling like you are walking on eggshells, not knowing how your partner will feel on any given day, as they are very conflicted in the way that they think, and this shows in their behaviour. One day they may open up and be loving, tell you they're so happy with you, they want to spend the rest of their lives with you. Another day they may be totally closed off and struggle to connect with you. This was certainly the case for Ashley and Charlie, who had been together for 5 years and married for 2. Ashley was extremely loving and caring and always felt it was her job to fix other people. However, recently she was struggling to cope with Charlie's hot and cold approach to their relationship. Charlie was constantly second-guessing Ashley and found it hard to trust her when she was out with friends. He found it easy to get lost in a cycle of negative thinking, and a simple night out for Ashley would end in abusive texts and accusations of cheating or not caring. Charlie had very few close friends and didn't have much of a relationship with his family, and this gave him even more time to overthink everything. Ashley wanted support to work on their relationship. As Charlie was not ready for individual or couples counselling at that moment, I gave Charlie the tools and the tips to maintain a loving relationship with Charlie, whilst loving herself and setting boundaries that she needed to. When you're in a relationship with a person who shows traits of disorganized attachment style, you must pay attention to the small things. For example, communicating things clearly. Those with a disorganized attachment style are used to confusion and chaos because of their inner conflict, so they benefit from clear, simple conversations that reduce the noise in their mind. So try to stay away from too many questions or topics of conversations that they may find triggering. Keep it simple. Be mindful of your tone and voice and gestures. The way that we say something and how we say it can really influence the way another person reacts. And this is especially true with a disorganized attachment style. For example, if they've grown up in an abusive household where the abuser talked in a loud, overpowering voice and left them feeling vulnerable and helpless, they may get defensive if you talk in a loud tone, even if you don't mean anything by it. Talking in a calm, soothing tone can make your partner feel safe and prevents them from feeling like they're in an aggressive situation. It also may be frustrating for you because you really believe that you're just expressing yourself and they're taking it like an attack. Give reassurances. You may feel it's always you giving the reassurances. However, your partner isn't behaving like this because of you. It's often because of the experiences they had in their childhood, and that's shaped their relationships today. So being as loving as possible means that you can support them by reassuring them of your love, giving them hugs and kisses, and doing things that make you both happy. Let them see and feel your love, and not just hear that you say you love them. Actions can speak louder than words for many people. Working through the attachment styles and relationships can be tricky, especially if you're doing it alone. If both partners have some form of insecure attachment styles, there can be many deep-rooted reasons for developing different attachment styles. And until those experiences have been processed and healed, it can be hard for couples to manage it. I've had great success with my 3-day breakthrough program to help a person clear their negative thinking about themselves, about the future, about the relationship, about their partner, about love and relationships in general. Often, when couples want to really work on themselves and the relationship, it's a great option for them both to do the 3-day breakthrough program. And then they need very little couple sessions, because once you're the best version of yourself, true, authentic, feeling secure, confident and happy, your relationship is going to be thriving. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to learn more about that. You can find details on my website. You can also book a call with me on my website if you're interested to discuss it further. From my heart to yours, thank you so much for listening. I'd so appreciate it if you could leave a rating or review if you've enjoyed this episode. And do join the Relationship Facebook group. It's a great community where people post questions, share their thoughts on different interesting topics. I'm in there regularly, posting videos and new articles and podcasts. So it'll be great to connect more closely. Wishing you an amazing day ahead. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Relationship and Wellness Podcast with Nicola Beer. If you are interested in finding out more about becoming a holistic life therapist, would like to get Nicola's mentorship directly, or check out the award-winning audio programs, visit www.nicolabeer.com today. Subject to availability, a waitlist may apply.